Hello YouTube and welcome to my jungle tier list here. We have now the new patch and I'm gonna explain. First of all, patch 25.17, a lot of changes. I wrote down everything here what is important for the jungle and I already have it sorted for you guys. Now you will have timestamps on the bottom for each champion. You can also skip through on the champion you want to see. I'm going to show you step by step now on what I think is currently the most broken jungler, tips and tricks on every jungler, and also what you should do. All right, enjoy, and I wish you a beautiful stay.
My blade is yours.
Starting off with Qiyana, in my opinion, currently considered as the most broken jungler. Now I make this tier list mainly focused on lower MMR, so I will rate her around A-, B+, getting it around Challenger Elo. Qiyana is of course S+, extremely broken. So also for lower MMR, also if you are a Qiyana enthusiast, then it's the right time to pick her up because I don't think she will ever get stronger, and I also don't have the feeling that she's about to get nerfed. If you're interested in a high elo tier list as well, let me know in the comments below and I can also create that in the future. Now Volibear has always been a very fine champion in lower MMR. The champion itself, I wouldn't rate necessarily A tier, but he's S tier, but he's like A+, S-, because the champion has a very basic kit, has very good utility for the team. Big tip for Volibear especially, make sure to play in numbers. You have a 100% guaranteed CC spell. You have a shield, you have a lot of damage output, and you're very good at longer extended fights. So my big tip for Volibear jungle is to play with the team and to stay in even numbers. Don't play too much in a catchy style, just play in a way that you are almost always in a slight numbers advantage, and then the fights will also be extraordinary easy. Going next with Nautilus. Nautilus I don't think is that strong. His clears way faster, gang setup also pretty decent, but if enemies have one dash, let's say Lucian dash, let's say Gwen E, it's very easy to like get away from him, so he can get countered. Potentially a very good situational pick, because if the enemies do not have a dash, we take Rumble, we take Teemo, we take Amumu. I think the CC chain from Nautilus is almost undodgeable. I'm very happy that he's more like of a support player, even in lower MMRs, because after all, I think there are more basic champions like Nocturne that I would still consider at S tier for low MMR. Now Nocturne is insanely strong because his champion kit is first of all basic, and it's almost impossible to play against the champion if you do your combos correctly with him. That means you ult engage, then you fear someone. Now your fear lasts for 1.75 seconds until it pops, and then it fears for 2 seconds. Your W lasts for 1.25 seconds. So you need to use your W 0.5 seconds after you use your E, and once they are feared, then you're gonna throw your Q. If you do it correctly in low MMR and you learn a little bit of macro, I think you will have a very easy, legitimately very easy time climbing with Nocturne. Getting off with Xin Zhao. Xin Zhao has always been a decent pick for low MMR. There's no way how I consider him to be stronger than Volibear, and in low MMRs as well, there's no way that Qiyana's will on average outperform Xin Zhao. I would not be that scared of Qiyana from low MMR. Keep in mind that almost nobody can play her properly. Of course, we can talk about Smurfs, but that is a different topic at a different day. Now, Olaf has not been that good of a jungler. I honestly would rather have a Nautilus jungle that plays it really decently than an Olaf, because Olaf has no CC chain. Olaf's specific strength, like if you do want to play Olaf, my advice is that you play in a very invading style, because he's a very stat checking champion and it's really hard to fight versus him when he like hits one Q. Imagine like Olaf invades Master Yi and Olaf does his first Q on the wrap buff with Master Yi hit. Now if Master Yi doesn't have anyone to them, he either flashes away, but even then Olaf could insta follow throw another Q, and then Master Yi needs to fight. But in a raw stat check, Olaf almost wins. So if you do play Olaf, you need to play in a very cheesy style to enable his strength of the level, like the level 1, and also the stats checking in general. Dr. Mundo, very strong pick. in lower MMR, also better than Qiyana, would rate him also around A tier. We're getting to the nerfs and buffs here on the side list here in a second. Now, I would say that Mundo, he is pretty tanky. You need to scale with him well, and the itemization needs to be really decent. Nadinet does it very well, so I would recommend to watch Nadinet, also how he itemizes. For example, if you buy Varmox on Mundo Jungle, you already kind of report it. It's a top lane item because you already have an insane sustain in the jungle. If you don't itemize correctly, there's just way better picks than Dr. Mundo. Now, Amumu also for low MMR, always is a fine champion. Same with Volibear. You need to respect the numbers advantage. That means if you're even numbers, you always want to go for a fight, and with numbers advantage, it's extraordinary easy, especially in the mid late game macro. Let's say we have here the mid lane. Here's the we have the map here. Okay, I will just explain this real quick. You have here mid lane T2, mid lane T1, mid lane T2. Then we have mid lane T1, mid lane T2. Okay, with Amumu, here's the mid lane and here the bushes, right? On Amumu, you always want to have a very small arena of fight. Let's say only the mid lane. The longer the arena is, the worse it is for Mumu, because then his Qs and his ult are hard to hit. For Volibear, it's very similar. Keep that in mind when you play one of those two champions. Gwen. Now, Gwen does get a small nerf. Attack speed gets buffed, and her ult slows a little bit less. In total, I don't think it changes anything for her being a jungler. I think she's completely fine. Solid AP pick. We're gonna get to that, but I think other AP options are simply better. I'm gonna rate Sylas here and then we continue the order because Sylas is really strong jungler right now. I would also say he's better than Qiyana and he is rated around A tier. Now, the Sylas is very scary because he also has some very sneaky invades, level 1 invades on chickens. If he has chickens re-clear, means he clears, let's say, your chickens, then he does his camps and then he clears your chickens again on the spawn 225. It's really hard to match him because he has some very decent damage output, getting around 50 to 60% of your damage, of your HP bar, and then also is able to like just wait his E cooldown one more time. And if you do continue fighting the chickens or the area of the jungle, then on his second iteration you will always win a fight. So in a 2v2 skirmish, he's actually pretty decent. And now imagine there's a mid lane as well, let's say a Yone, that also has around 50 to 60% damage output burst. Now, how can you match that? You know, you will always die. So he's really strong at those 2v2 skirmishes. Okay, Kayn, mana, he has less mana. The costs doesn't matter at all. For jungler, we don't care about mana at all. So Kayn just stays B tier. Completely fine. Master Yi got a small nerf, HP nerf, and on hit amplifier means how much does your, let's say, your true damage actually work on his Q. So we have here on hit damage modifier went down by 10% exactly, and it doesn't really matter. Like, it is a nerf for Yi, and he's surely gonna, like, he was around A+, now he's probably like A-. So it does have an effect on him, but his win rate also drops heavily. But honestly, like macro-wise speaking, if you, like, he's a very basic champion, and if you lock in, if you don't go for stupid fight, because if you take a look at his HP nerf, right? Now, if you don't take stupid fights, that will never actually matter. There will be, I played them a lot already after the nerfs. And I didn't even feel a difference. Performance-wise, win-wise. Now, you probably do feel a tiny difference. That's why it was from A+, S- to like A-, B+. So we do feel something. But trust me, it's not going to be that bad. Don't look at the win rates too much. Trust me and play the champion and focus on your macro. You will be fine. I've had it multiple times in the past. Morgana got a tiny buff. Shouldn't change anything of the champion. She's still like B tier. Gwen is straight up a better AP champion. Rumble got a nerf. We don't care. The champion is shit in the jungle right now. Would not recommend to play. So he's probably like D+. Vayne did get some buffs. The champion is okay, but it's simply not that strong. I played her a couple of times, and I honestly can straight up tell that she still has a lot of weaknesses the champ has in general. The champ in general is struggling, and there are just junglers like Kha'Zix, Viego. Vayne cannot match it. Vayne cannot match the power of a Viego. Viego, by the way, is now for lower MMR, he is pretty hard to play, but he is one of the strongest junglers. Yet still, for both high elo and low elo, my biggest advice is to learn how to play Viego, learn his combos, know when to engage, when to farm, when to relax, and trust me, in numbers, even fights, this champion is gonna go extraordinarily strong. He's gonna go crazy. He has his WCC chain with your team. Let's say your Nautilus engages. Viego is absolutely insanely strong at that because he has a stun duration and a damage output burst. And I would also recommend to go Kraken into Collector into Crit still. Doesn't change that he got nerfed on that. All right, Rammus, not that strong right now, but clearly stronger than Vayne. Fine as a counter pick for against champions like Master Yi would take. Mordekaiser is, yeah, actually not that weak. In the top lane, he's a bit stronger. He's probably weaker than Rammus because Rammus is a very fine counter pick and he's stronger than Vayne. Again, showing not that Vayne is simply not that strong. Now, Teemo also got a small change on his ult, but that's simply some visuals, so that also doesn't really matter too much. So Teemo jungle will also is clearly weaker than Vayne jungle. Now Vayne jungle is even fine. Like if the enemies pick Master Yi, it's a very interesting Vayne jungle angle. Same as this is a Wukong angle we take as an example, okay? Now Trundle in lower MMR, fantastic champion, would highly recommend to pick him up. Now as you can see, we have very few on S tier, so the patch in general is pretty balanced, which I'm very happy to see. Now Trundle is one of those champions I would always recommend you to learn. My big advice, learn the first auto attack reset plus Q. Needs to be precise and perfection. Learn the W placement. That means if you stand here, that you don't place it like this, but you place it like that, so you can have the arena of fight you want. And number 3 is learn the pillar, because pillar needs to be very precise move, and if the enemy is here, you shouldn't just pillar like here, 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 here. You need to pillar precisely on the edge where you want to knock him away, so he has the biggest distance to go. I will explain this more in detail. Oh, you didn't show here right now. You didn't see it because of my camera. I will show you again. If here's the enemy, you don't pillar like, let's say you're standing here and here's the enemy. You don't pillar like this. You need to pillar on the edge here to knock him back in this direction. Your pillar needs to be extraordinarily precise. That's very important with Trundle. Evelynn, very cool champion. Love to play her. Sadly, weak. Other AP junglers are better. I'm still waiting for an Evelynn buff before I say I can pick her up. Problem with Evelynn, enemies can stack magic resist and you are cooked. Witsand, Mercs, Morphle, Murches, Rukern, and you're cooked. For Gwen, that is also, of course, annoying, but not that bad, because then, first of all, the other 80 champions will be a problem, but she will always have like an impact. She can split push, she can still deal damage. Evelynn, on the other hand, can simply do nothing anymore. That's why I rate her also weaker than Morgana. Same with Gragas, similar situation. Gragas can also never split push. You can buy magic resist against him. Once he has no body slam, this is not a champion. So on Gragas, if you want to play Gragas, then use your body slams correctly. If you fail it once, you're useless. On the other hand, if you do play him well and enemies don't buy magic resist that early on, you need to end the game quickly, because then you are getting like strong on your first, second item. And through that, you're gonna get a win condition, usually through your ADC. Now, Maokai, Maokai probably is still not that strong. I loved when he was like really strong in the past when I played him myself. I would rate him still, yeah, probably a little bit stronger than Mordekaiser, but he still stays on the Z tier list. Same with Sejuani, but Sejuani is also better than Rammus. But I would rather have for low MMR. Probably a little bit better than Gragas even here in this position. Yeah, but I would. Even then Evelynn is debatable, because Sejuani is just in general a shit champion, but it's just way more consistent if we take a look at all the possibilities the champion itself has, right? Jack's interesting counter pick, same with Rammus, put in the same category. Apart from the counter pick, champions like Viego, Master Yi, and Bel'Veth I'm gonna put here as well is simply better. Now Bel'Veth is also for low MMR probably around B+, a little bit stronger than Olaf. Sett jungle is straight up garbage because he's just getting kited way too much, but he is better than Rumble jungle. Darius jungle is pretty similar. I would say he's a bit better than Sett, but not even better than Teemo. That shows how weak. Actually, he is a little bit better than Teemo, but not better than Vayne. Now, Lillia, very beautiful champion for low MMR. I would say she is around a little bit weaker than... She's not that strong actually when I look at it. She's probably a little bit weaker than Master Yi, a little bit stronger than Nautilus. Now with Lillia, keep in mind you want to have your ult and flash combo in the late game. That means in the late game, be aware that your flash is almost guaranteeing a one team fight. With Master Yi, flash also very important in the mid late game. With Lillia, one of the most dangerous things to play against, and in low MMR people don't respect it, right? So you have a threat that people don't know about, you can utilize that. Apart from that, she's a little bit too slow. Try to still play a lot like farm heavy. Also try to have like sneaky play styles where you can get enemy chickens on invades. Same with Talon. Higher MMR, Talon S tier. In low MMR, he is same range than Lillia. Has the same weaknesses. On both those two champions, you try, I will take these, and then we have Hecarim as well and put him in the same category here. On those three champions, guys, make sure enemy chickens respawn timer is yours. Same with enemy grump. You want to get these camps before the enemies have time to clear it. Once you build a CS hit on those three champions, you're gonna go insanely, like you're gonna build an advantage, and through that you're going to win. All right, let's continue here. Okay, Nidalee. I think she's so hard to pilot correctly. Also, with Nidalee, the problem I face is that you need to play in an invading playstyle, and people just don't play her mechanically at that level until you're like Diamond Elo. So I would say that she's for sure worse than Bel'Veth, even worse than Gwen, and even worse than Kayn. So I will put Nidalee around here. Echo's actually for low MMR pretty decent champion. He's for sure better than Nautilus. I need to readjust here a little bit. Nautilus has to be a little bit worse here. Nautilus is probably below Morgana at the skill level, even below Sejuani, but pretty next to Sejuani. Ivern also hard champion to pilot, very easy clear. But he is squishy. You need to have an insane positioning and know who you play for all the time. So Ivern I will put at Z tier. Interesting pick for sure. I don't think, like, a lot of high elo players, I would take Arguin as an example, dislike Ivern players a lot. I don't have that problem. Like, I dislike playing against an Ivern player, but I think it still takes an insane amount of skill to play the champion at a high level. Now, a lot of people will disagree with me here, but I've played Ivern in the past myself a decent amount, and yeah, I also like the playstyle of the champion itself, knowingly that I'm basically in my own bubble, that I dislike the champion from an enemy's perspective, but from a game point of view from him, it is not that easy. It's pretty similar than Master Yi. Like, everyone in the enemy team would say this champion is easy, disgusting, and annoying, right? Yet if I would position myself in the position of the Master Yi, you will quickly be able to tell that it is just not that easy to pilot the champion at a proper way, right? All right, beautiful. Getting off to Grace. Now, I will tell you, I say this all the time, what do you think is Graves' only specific strength? I mean, everyone has a few strengths and weaknesses. Graves almost has none strengths, but one specific insane strength. What do you think it could be? It's not invading, okay? It's like all decent and all, but there's one thing where he is extraordinarily strong in comparison to other junglers. I will tell you in a second, but you can pause here and think about it, and then I will tell you. Now, it is, surprisingly, he's a tiny bit better than Nidalee for sure, yeah. He's around here. Graves has an insane raw damage output. Okay? That means if he has 3 items and Master Yi has 3 items, Graves kills him usually quicker if he has the first strike. That goes for almost all the champions, unless they're of course a full tank. But Graves can damage output almost anybody faster than they kill him. That means he does auto ult, already half HP gone. It goes way too quickly. Okay, that is his strength. And if you do play Graves, knowingly you want to have damage and play the fights extremely fast. You need to be quick. Otherwise, you missed your opportunity. All right, let's get to Jarvan. Jarvan, yeah, he's kind of stuck at some rate right now. Now, I say this also multiple times in lower MMR. Sandra Sky, Black Cleaver, Frozen Heart, Spirit Visage. This champion is butter. This is like the most beautiful thing, especially in low MMR. You will destroy enemies. Tip for Jarvan. He's also a bit better than Graves, tiny bit worse than Kayn. Big tip for Jarvan. If the enemy is here and Jarvan is here, and this is max EQ range, do not EQ here, 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 here. Okay? Your EQ needs to be on the foot of the enemies and precisely there. It's almost impossible to sidestep that. Next time I play Jarvan, I will show you how to do it. Trust me, it makes a significant difference. Briar, I just played her. She's actually insanely strong. I was surprised. This champion is insanely strong. That champion is at the same level as Master Yi, if not better. I will need to adjust here also a little bit. Qiyana is, yeah, this looks way better already. I would even put it like this. If I rethink about it, Qiyana lower MR is just really hard to pilot. Now seeing all the other champions, I think this is it fits way better. Lee Sin, hard to pilot, a little bit better than, better than them for sure. He is at the same level as Nidalee. Also skill-wise, really hard. Now with Nidalee, you need to invade a lot. With Lee Sin, you need to play a lot for your team. And especially on Lee Sin, you need to make sure that you have a win condition. Usually your ADC can also be your APC. Skarner, pretty weak right now. Better than Sejuani. Yeah, this sums it up. Kha'Zix and Assassin has a very decent potential of going 1v9. Also hard to pilot, similar than Lee Sin and Nidalee, but he is way stronger than both of them, and he's also stronger than Bel'Veth. He's also stronger than Qiyana. He's like pretty next to Qiyana. Now keep in mind that if you play both of them at perfect level, Qiyana is straight up better, but Kha'Zix is a little bit easier to pilot than Qiyana and also to learn, because his kit is hard, but still has basic concepts. For example, you just want to queue enemies, right? With Qiyana, there's more like in-depth guidance on that. Warwick always been a stupid and easy champion for lower MMR. That's also why I rate him at a very high level. You just need to run down people. That's basically Warwick, his gameplay. You need to run down people. Tip for Warwick is calculate who could be here. If you run someone down, just estimate who could be here. Look at who you see on the map. If the enemies have big numbers advantage, for example, you go in a 1v3, do not go in there and chill. That's it. And your Warwick games are 10 times easier. Rek'Sai, pretty shit right now. I would not recommend to play Rek'Sai actually. If you're a Rek'Sai player, I recommend to play different champions. Like there are so many cool champions that do similar tasks than what Bel'Veth is doing. Like also ganking wise, invading wise, burst damage output wise, they are just better champions. So Rek'Sai is better than Gragas, but he's a very shit level right now. Rengar, completely fine jungler, a little bit worse than Bel'Veth. For lower MMR, also hard to play with insane potential, because he, from the champion itself, has very good opportunities of damage output, assassination, clear speed, split push, catches. But there's a lot of knowledge about it. Same with like Rengar, I would recommend to watch Nadinet. He's currently also in Korea, locked in. So a lot to take away here from his Rengar, would highly recommend. Now, Kindred. Kindred is, in general, there are a lot of champions that are pretty hard to play, I have to say. We're getting to easier champions here. Kindred is, yeah, sure better than Nautilus, Skarner, Morgana, Nidalee. Yeah, Kindred is a tiny bit better than Graves, at the same level as Jarvan and Kayn. Zyra is also a better version than Evelynn and Morgana, and also easier to play than Nidalee, but Zyra is not even better than Gwen. We're getting to the AP champions in a second. Now, Vi is also a basic concept. With Vi, learn the macro, the combos, Vi combos, champions specifically, general jungle macro, the fundamentals, very important. You learn the fundamentals. I teach them on a daily basis. Then you will have an easier time. Like on all the champions here, if you know the jungle macro really well, if you know the fundamentals pretty well, and the basic combos here from Vi, it's probably the easiest champion to climb. Probably Volibear and Nocturne are still better. And Viego, because I just think Viego is extremely underrated, by the way. Like, the way I see this is like, we have statistics and people say, yeah, it's hard to play. And technically speaking, his win rates are lower and he's already there since years. But my big takeaway here, guys, like I play Viego so much. The champion is actually, it's like you have Ruffy's fruit, devil fruit. You have so much potential to carry games. And I'm not accepting on ever saying this champion doesn't have the potential to help you climb out of low MMR. Okay, same with Pantheon. He can for sure help you climb. The champion is just straight up strong. Is not getting nerfed yet. Is even better than, yeah, a tiny bit worse than Masti, because Masti's basic kit is pretty simple. Shyvana would not recommend to play her right now. She is better than Rek'Sai, better than Nautilus, better than Skarner, better than Morgana. Even, yeah, she's for sure between Zyra and Nidalee, but for AP there are just always a little bit better champions to play. Now Sett in general has still very fast clear. I don't understand why. I mean, maybe you guys can tell me in the comments, but why do you think that Riot Games is taking those assassin champions like Sett, Qiyana, that have a very weak early game in the mid lane, and then make them the biggest, fastest clear champions in the entire game to go full 1v9, and then the entire weakness is gone and they can just assassinate. With Qiyana, it's the worst. Like with Qiyana, I just don't understand the point Riot Games is cooking. Maybe you guys are smarter than me. Maybe you know from an economic perspective, maybe from a very rational perspective, a reason being, maybe you think that Riot Games just want to cook things up. So it's like, again, different spice level. I don't know. You can let me know. Now, Zac is better than Skarner. He's probably one of the best tanks you could potentially take. I will take him at... Yeah, he's better than... He's a very good jungler. He's better than Gwen. He's better than Gwen, yeah. Better than Olaf as well. I would even, if I have all these champions now, I would put Olaf in a lower category next to Shyvana. Yeah, I'll put him around here. He's not that strong. Nunu is fine to play. Nunu is a pretty one-trick pony champion, and I think we put it around this. Yeah, this seems very accurate. I think Ivern is even better than Gragas. I would have to put it. This is now way more accurate. Okay, this is way more accurate. Okay, usually like it gets adjusted a little bit because I need to be as precise as possible. Now, Nunu is a one-trick pony champion. Fine to play. I think champions like Zac just do the same, just better. And Nunu is macro-wise very basic, so it's very easy to read. And once you do a few mistakes on Nunu, enemy jungler just already outclassed you. That's the problem I face with him. On Fiddlesticks. Now Fiddlesticks, again, one-trick pony champion for lower elo. I mean, if you know his clears pretty well, you know his old angles, he can be completely fine, but he is, yeah, not necessarily strong. Like, he is probably at the same level as Evelynn, not necessarily special. For Poppy. Now, Poppy is an interesting counter pick against champions like Xin Zhao, against Bel'Veth, right? But not necessarily like insane. She is probably stronger than like here you see there's a decent amount of counter picks. Like Jarvan is a fine counter pick, Zac fine counter pick, Kindred is she's okay, right? So she's around the same level as Lee Sin, but I would only view her that as a counter pick, completely fine to play and to climb with. Katos still very strong, even for like especially for low MMR, because like his Qs are potentially hard to hit, but again, concentration on the foot, I explained earlier. When you have an enemy, your Qs on Katos, every time you press Q, you don't need to just press it, or like imagine you are like shooting arrows, right? And this is like the center. Usually people shoot like this, right? And then you have an average, and then you have like an average hitbox, right? On Katos, I just want you to, every time you press Q, is a moment where your concentration rate goes from, let's say, 80 to let's say 98%. Now this, what I mean by that is you need to, every time you press Q, your concentration goes on the foot of the enemies. Imagine you're pressing Vega ult, and then you press it. Usually they try to sidestep it, okay? And then you will always be very close to that, and it's really hard to sidestep it. When you hit 2 free Qs with Katos, boom, easy. Shaco, Very, very annoying champion to play with. I don't like this champion at all. From an analyzer's perspective, because there's a lot of Shaco 1 tricks, completely fine. This champion is not weak. This champion is not insanely strong. His level 1 invade is the most annoying thing in the entire existence, where he does chickens and then just runs at your camps whilst his box clear the first camp, and then he's already level 2 smiting away your camp, and then you're cooked. If you do play Shaco, you need to have an invading strategy game plan. If you do have that, and then the rest is already fought for. So that means, like, you need to have a game plan on how to invade properly in the beginning. You need to invade. Then, after the invade, you need to know what you're gonna do next. How are you gonna play the invade? Like the game, once the invade and everything is finished. So minute 4, 5. So minute 4 to minute 10, you need to have an exact game plan as well. And from minute 0 to minute 4, you need to have a game plan. So there's 2 different game plans. Once you have that, I would even recommend to pick up Shaco, because then it's a good champion to climb with. I would even say he's around here. Like, he's pretty decent. He's like B+. Elise, very hard to pilot. For sure not one of those strong AP champions, harder to play than Evelynn, harder to play than Morgana, similar rate than Nidalee. But Nidalee would even be, I would say that Elise is like better than Nidalee, and even a tiny bit better than Olaf. Yeah, it's probably gonna be around this. Talia is already very like easier to play. Same with Brand. Talia and Brand are 2 hard champions, but Talia need to have a good spacing. A Brand, you need to know to save up your Q, so you always have the stun threat. Then both champions are instantly 1 tier above. I'm gonna put both of them B-, but I'm gonna intentionally put them now B+, because you have the additional tip from me. Means a Brand is going to be better than Qiyana. He's probably the best AP champions out of all here, even potentially better than Katos. I probably have to switch those 2 up here, like this, yeah. And Talia is also similar, a little bit, probably a tiny bit worse than Vi. This is pretty accurate. Wukong, insanely strong to climb with, same way as Pantheon. They're at the same skill level, so they are actually next, like extremely close. With Wukong, no, your combos, that means, let's say you don't you don't W plus E plus ult, you E plus Q plus ult plus W plus Q plus ult. Okay, now try to imagine it, okay? The reason I say this is this champion is good against champions that don't have a dash. Means Wukong against, we take Vayne, okay? Insanely strong. Wukong against, who do we take here as an example? Someone that don't has a dash, like Rumble. It's impossible to play against Qiyana, okay? Impossible to play the game against it. Now, therefore it's a good pick against champions that don't have a dash and can't get away, like against mid laner. Let's take Annie, right? She can't do much against Wukong setup, right? I mean, she has some CC, but in general, it's really hard to play against Wukong when you don't have a dash. And know that Wukong is almost unmatched in teamfights where he gets his ults off with the knockup. Because EQ into ult already half HP, and then you still have your invincibility and another knockup ult and another Q, and this champion is too strong for that, okay? Diana is, now we have the champion finally, I was not thinking about her before, is better than Brand. Diana is the best AP version for lower elo to climb, still insanely good. She is around 8 here. As you can see, the entire tier list is very balanced, which I think is positive. Yet, with every champion, I gave you some decent amount of tips that you can take away, with which you can still climb and make every, like, keep in mind, every champion you play, you can increase in tier list. That means if I play Yi and I make a higher tier list, he would probably be Z plus B-. But I make this champion S tier, and I will climb to rank 1 with him. If I take Viego and he has negative inward, I will make this champion S tier, because I enable his strength so insanely hard, and I remove his weaknesses. If you take an LEC jungler like Marcoon on Sett jungle, he will make this champion look broken. You see? So you can be a Darius jungle main and make this champion insanely strong, right? This is just a tier list for... Tier list is always the average player that plays the game. And if your enemy is Olaf, we take you have 50,000 Olaf players. what is going to be the result? Yet if you are one of the 10 or 100 top Olaf players in your elo, knowing his strengths and when to invade and when to cheese and how to play afterwards, then of course it's gonna look disgustingly broken. That is why Qiyana, for example, in high elo is disgustingly broken, because how to enable her, people know in Challenger, boom, unplayable. Because then, again, B tier goes up to S tier. Now, Udyr, yeah, he had his better times. Like, he straight up had his better times. Fine to play, right? He's probably at around the same level as Shaco. Completely fine. In Naafiri, I would not recommend to play. In low MMR, there are better champions than Naafiri. And with that being said, we have already beautiful tier list. Make sure to take away the tips and tricks I have for the champions, and maybe like when I talk about specific strengths, when I talk about weaknesses, try to brainstorm about it and reflect and see what you can apply for your games. Okay, yeah, this is pretty much the tier list for now. I can also make different kind of tier lists, like also how to, like, for example, one trick pony tier lists, how you can climb the best with what you can focus on, and I'm also planning on making nice guides for every champion on how to climb properly. Okay, that was pretty chill. I enjoyed it. Was pretty relaxing. It's pretty sunny outside, and I'm gonna leave now, and I wish you a beautiful day. And with that being said, good luck in your games. And from my side, one more sip of coffee, and then I will say goodbye. Take care.